Hi, everybody. All right, happy Monday. It is 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to do this thing. Um, okay, so I'm going to wait a minute or two. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Josie. We are going to be really casual today. So I traveled this weekend. I was at the AFHE, Arizona Families for Home Educators, first ever special needs and gifted conference. It was great. Hi, Christy. It was great. I had a lot of fun. Excuse me. I met a lot of wonderful, wonderful, amazing moms and dads, had some great conversations. But I'm tired. I'm so tired today. The time change is just about killing me. I was 3 hours behind for the weekend, and then I had a flight delay. So I had two choices in flights: a super, super duper early one that would have put me midday yesterday when my husband had to run kids to rehearsals and things, or later at night when it was easier for him to organize getting me from the airport. And so I took the nighttime one, and then the flights were delayed. So I didn't actually get home until close to 1 o'clock in the morning, and the kids were all still up. So they always try to wait for me, which I try to encourage them not to. But earlier in the day, here's some real life for you. And that's why there's like a sweatshirt. I have my Netflix sweatshirt on and ponytail, very little makeup. So you're getting real life, real mom Colleen right now, coming at you from the basement in Northeast Ohio. But we had, they had, because I wasn't home, some excitement yesterday afternoon in the midst of all of the running around from to and from youth group and theater rehearsal and everything else. Our oldest son on Saturday smelled gas outside, and it kind of came and went. And so nobody could really figure out where it was coming from. And so my husband's like, I don't smell it. It's okay. We'll just kind of keep an eye on it and try to see what we can see. He was smelling it outside. And so yesterday, my son smelled it again. And then my daughter smelled it. And then my husband kind of caught a whiff of it. And it was coming and going and coming and going. Good, Courtney. I'm not alone in the rocking the ponytail and the sweatshirt today. I have slippers on too underneath this desk here. So I'm not wearing sweats. I have jeans on. So I'm kind of there. I have a little bit of makeup on too. So I can at least be presentable at Annie rehearsals tonight for my daughter. But anyway, my husband, he smelled the gas, and he smelled it very strongly. And then it kind of went away again. And then he smelled it again. It was kind of coming and going as the breezes were coming and going. And so he called the fire department. They came out, and they had their equipment out, and they couldn't smell anything. And my husband's like, just sit tight for a couple minutes. If you don't mind, it's going to come back. And sure enough, like a couple minutes later, one of the firemen, his eyebrows rose, and he's like, yeah, that's pretty strong. And so, yay, Gina, it's the Sweatshirt and Ponytail Club. Woohoo! The fire department, we're getting pretty heavy duty readings over by our tree lawn. And if you're not from Northeast Ohio, I don't know, I think tree lawn is like a colloquialism local. It's that little space of grass between the sidewalk and the street. And there are no trees on our tree lawn, but there's like this little space of, grass. I talk with my hands, sorry. And so they called the gas company, and they suspected a gas leak. And so the gas company came out with a backhoe right around dinner time, a couple hours before they had to come pick me up. And it started pouring on the gas people, but it was pretty strong. And they opened up the whole front of our yard to find that there was this giant rock that had been pressing on our gas pipes for years, probably decades. And it just finally gave. And all of the pipes in our area apparently are slated to be replaced in the next 18 months. They're kind of going street by street, block by block. So they were able to patch it and kind of fix it last night. But they were there till really late. And so my kids were all, hyped up and nervous. And the gas company's got to come back out and double check our lines. But it doesn't seem like there's any gas leaks in our house. So anyway, long story short, when you have gifted kids who have overexcitabilities, which we've talked about before, excitement like that is really hard to come down from. So that, coupled with me being gone for 4 days and just the excitement of, you know, the nervousness of my flight delay and everything else. Needless to say, nobody got to sleep before like 2 o'clock in the morning. And we had to be out the door early today for my youngest daughter, my second youngest child's physical therapy and occupational therapy appointments. So this is what you get, a little bit of a disoriented, hi Dana, a little bit of a disoriented Colleen, who doesn't have a specific topic to talk to you about, but that means that you can ask me some questions. So here's what I want you to do. Down below in the comment area, pop in some questions. And if you're watching the replay of this, pop in your questions anyway, because I'll come in and I'll answer them as I can, or I will tackle them on another Facebook Live or in a post on my site. This is a chance to just pick my brain. And while I'm waiting for some questions to come in, I have questions too that I get asked all the time, so we can tackle some of those. But let me tell you about this great event I went to this past weekend. I met some amazing parents. Dana's one of them. It was so nice. I don't get a chance to get out as often as I would love to, but I am really, really fortunate that I get a chance to travel around a little bit and just talk to moms and dads about their gifted kids and let them know that they're not alone. You're not alone. Intensity and quirky wiring is your normal, and it's good, and it's great, and it's fun, and it's challenging. And it's so, so worth it. It's so worth it. Even on those hard days, even on those stress-eating cookie days, Julie, it's so worth it to have the kids that we have, because they're going to be movers and shakers. They're going to change the world. And we just have to help them get through their childhood without killing us or killing each other or themselves, and give them the tools that they need to be successful with whatever quirks they have. So I got to talk a lot this weekend about some of those things. I talked about different types of giftedness, different ways that giftedness can look in a family, and intensity, asynchrony, and overexcitabilities. And then I just got to troubleshoot and problem solve with some great parents. So it was really, really fun. It was a lot of fun. And whether I'm there or not, if you get a chance to go to any homeschooling or educational event, conference, whatever, that has a speaker talking about gifted kids, go. Do yourself a favor and go. It's really, really amazing to know that you're not the only one dealing with some of the quirks and issues. And there's nobody that's going to get it like another parent of gifted kids. So it's really special to be able to go and be around other people who have kids like yours and get you and get your unique challenges. And so I really, really encourage you, if you get a chance to go to an event, whether it's a homeschooling conference that has a gifted and special needs track, whether it's something like the AFHE put on this weekend that is specific to giftedness and special needs, or if it's an event like SING, supporting the emotional needs of gifted.org. It's SENGIFTED.org. They put on an annual event and they have a parent track for it. There's lots of great opportunities for you to learn about giftedness and hear from speakers who are living it too, or at least have taught kids like that. But what I love most, and what I said in a couple of my different talks this past weekend, is we're bringing together people who have similar kids. It's bringing together, I'm sorry, I got distracted. I got a text and I forgot to turn off my do not disturbs. And so I'm very much like my kids. Okay, so one of the other things I talked about this weekend is apples don't fall very far from trees. So if your kids are highly distractible, chances are you probably are too, and I clearly am. But what I told the people in my talks was, take a look around. There are other parents in your area, or at least in the general vicinity, who have kids like yours, and you might want to connect with them. So it's a good chance to do that as well. So I'm gonna scroll back here for a second. So pardon my eyes looking away from the camera. Yeah, Anne-Marie said that she's excited to buy the recordings. They were away from Phoenix for fall break. So sorry I missed you in person. That would have been so fun to meet you. But yeah, AFHE is going to have the recordings available on their site just for a really short amount of time. But if you want to wait a little bit longer, well, you don't have to. You can certainly go buy them from them. But I am also working on pulling together those talks that that I've done this past year. So I've been to 8 different events this year, and I've done, I think actually in the past 2.5 years, I think I've been to 15 different events, and I've got 7 different talks that I've done at between those 15 different events. And I have recordings for all of them and slides for all of them. So I'm working right now on pulling them together in a package kind of with the slides and some worksheets to guide you through them, since I'm not there holding your hand and talking with you afterwards, along with the recordings. And they'll be available on my site just for a couple bucks. By the end of the year, hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed, hopefully by the end of the month. So any of those talks that I've done in the past, you can get your hands on. I try really hard to give new content to everybody each year. So I'm going to be speaking at all 5 of the Great Homeschool Convention events this coming year. And none of the talks that I do are going to be talks that anybody who's been to GHC in the past has heard, because I feel that if you're coming out and you want to come out again because it's a conference in your area or a convention in your area, then you deserve new content from me. So I'm going to make sure that if they've asked me to be there to serve you guys and help you out and give you some information about helping you raise and homeschool your gifted kids, then I'm going to give you new content so you have a reason to come out and listen. And it's worth your time, and it's worth the money to pay for the convention. You don't want to hear the same talks over and over again. And I don't want to give the same talks over and over again. I want you to have them available in different ways. So, so you can get them. Otherwise, you're going to get them on my site later this year. And if you don't know my site, it's raisinglifelonglearners.com, just like the Facebook page. There's a sign up in the sidebar for my newsletter, my email list. You get a newsletter or 2, sometimes 3 if something special is going on a week. I just sent one out this morning. So now's a good time to pop in. You won't miss anything else this week, but you can sign up for my newsletter and find out when anything goes on sale or I'm doing anything new. Gina, I'm reading your comment. Okay. Oh, wait. Stephanie, that's who it. Yes. Okay. So Stephanie said, I'm grateful for the comment that we're raising the game changers as long as we can help them get through their childhood. I hold on to that, because aren't there days that you're like so frustrated and so burnt out, and you look at that friend you have who's got really compliant kids and easygoing kids who just go with the flow, and you're like, oh, why can't my kids be like that? And you know what? There are moments in our lives and their lives when they are like that, but there are other moments that they are pushing the envelope and they're innovating and they're creating things out of scratch. And you wouldn't want to change that, because that innovative thinking and that creative thinking is what's going to make a huge difference in our world. Not to say those great, compliant, sweet-natured kids are not going to change the world in their own way, but we have unique personalities under our roofs, and it's up to us to stimulate that while harnessing it for good. And I think that's so important to remember, that our kids are who they are for a reason, and we just need to help them get to that reason. A quick anecdote, story about my kids. So my kids are very quirky, and I've talked about them at length before. If you've ever heard me talk live on Facebook or in person, you've heard lots and lots of stories about my kids. And there are lots of stories kind of woven throughout my site. But they are quirky, and they are high energy, and they push the envelope all the time. They're fun, but they keep me on my toes. So last week, as I was preparing for AFHE, and my talks, I wanted to make sure that that I had everything ready for when I was gone. A little digression here: we're running around a lot this fall. My oldest son is in a play, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, and so he's got rehearsals a few times a week. He's also doing a program through Case Western Reserve and the Metro Park system, so he meets with them once a week, and he's got flute lessons, and he's in a band, a rock band. So he's got band practice. And then our regular school stuff. My 8-year-old is doing gymnastics, physical therapy, and occupational therapy every week. My 4-year-old, poor guy's just along for the ride. And then my 10-year-old is taking voice lessons, and she's taking theater classes, and she's in a musical production of Annie. She's Tessie, and there's a pretty intense rehearsal schedule for her. So we're running a lot. We do a lot of schooling on the road, and we do a lot of our schooling in chunks. And with last week, all of the running around and me making sure that while I was gone, it was very detailed where everybody needed to be when, that I kind of forgot some different things. And they have co-op on Thursday and geography club once a month. And it was our geography club. And so we were supposed to have studied ancient Greece and produced or created a little presentation about it. And so, gosh, it was Monday or Tuesday that I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't get to the library. I have no books about ancient Greece except the Percy Jackson myths, the Percy Jackson's Heroes book, and I don't know, like a picture book about Hercules. That is it. And so I let my kids loose on Curiosity Stream and on YouTube. And I can do that because my 14-year-old right now is a pretty good self-censor. He's pretty good about letting us know what is and isn't appropriate. And he's really good, for better or for worse, at censoring my younger children. So anyway, I let them loose and I'm like, learn everything you can about ancient Greece and, you know, come up with a presentation and we'll practice and talk about it tomorrow and I'll help you get whatever it is you need for your presentation. So they came up with this presentation where my 8-year-old was the narrator and she came out and said, hey, we're the Kesslers and we studied Greece. And my 10-year-old theater buff comes walking out with a pretend boombox singing, Greece is the word, it's emotion. You guys have that in your head now? Greece is the word, yeah. So she comes out, bopping her head around to that. And then my 8-year-old rolls her eyes at her and says, not that Greece. And then my 14-year-old comes in with Pam cooking spray and sprays that. And she's like, not that Greece. And then she says, ancient Greece. And my youngest son comes in with a toga made out of a bath towel and says, and they wear togas. Hilarious. It was funny. They then dove into, I don't know, some different discussion about the architecture. But we didn't prepare and we were just kind of rolling with the punches. And they created a really fun thing, right? And so, like Steph was just saying, it's so important to remember that they can do some pretty great things if we let them loose and we remember to honor their creativity. Okay, so I'm going to look over and see. We've got a couple of different comments here. I'm not going to be able to get to them all, but I'm going to get to as many as I can. So Gina says she has a PG kiddo who refuses to do schooling oftentimes because she believes she knows it all. And finding challenging curriculum is difficult. And let's see, she's 12. Okay, so in a nutshell, the question is one that we've talked about a little bit, and I think I touched on 2 videos ago in the motivation piece, but that's a really hard balance, and I talked about that this weekend a little bit with people. That balance between meeting your kiddos where they are and challenging them while not pushing them too far or holding them too far back. And so it is hard, and 12's hard. 12 is difficult because now you're not just dealing with the PG kind of things, the gifted stuff and the twice exceptional stuff, but you're also dealing with puberty and emotions. And I'm going to turn back here for a second because I'm going to drink my coffee. But you're dealing with so much. So it's totally, first of all, perfectly normal for a 12-year-old to think she knows everything and knows more than you, because that's just the nature of 12-year-olds, especially girls. And so we need to kind of tone that down a little bit, but we also need to let them know that there are always things we can learn. I named my site Raising Lifelong Learners purposefully because that is my goal for my kids. They know a lot of stuff because they just absorb information because it's fun for them to learn new things. But they can be arrogant sometimes about topics. And so it's really important for me to model for them that we can always learn, and learning from each other is particularly beneficial because, oh my goodness, my husband is calling in. So see, but my husband is calling in. I'm going to message him and say I'm on live. Okay. See, this is real life, everybody. I'm going to message him and say I'm on, and I can't like talk and right. I'm on Facebook Live. Okay. Messaging him to say I'm on Facebook Live. Okay. Real life, right? At least my kids are tied up right now. This is Colleen Unplugged. You're getting to know the real Colleen. So anyway, it's important to validate those feelings, right, Gina? Validate, hey, you know a lot. You know a lot about a lot of stuff. But There's always something we can learn, and the best and most successful people are those who can learn from others around you. So let's figure out what it is that lights you up. This is a really good time for kids to start helping to develop their own or like direct their own learning. And so interest level or interest-based learning is good. Delight-directed learning, diving into like unit studies and things. You can get up to, you know, up into the high school stuff and different concepts. So actually, let me backtrack for a second. Content area subjects like history and science and geography and those kinds of things. There's always something you can learn about, and you can read whatever books you want to read or watch whatever documentaries you feel comfortable showing her based on those topics at a very high level. And then it's what you do with the information that is where you can kind of differentiate. So you don't have to throw a college level geography or geology text at her, but you can still challenge her to learn about one of those things by diving in more deeply and doing maybe some experiments or projects related to it, writing a book, writing a paper, creating a presentation to give to grandma and grandpa the next time they come over. There is a post on my site, something about, and I'll find the link and drop it in here at some point, but it's about developing an interest-based like curriculum for your middle schooler. We did this a lot when Trevor was in 7th and 8th grade because it was important for him to have some ownership of his curriculum or he wasn't going to do anything. And we still do that today. So we sit down in the beginning of the school year, the beginning of the month, whenever we're looking to change things up a little bit. And I say, what do you want to learn about? Here are the different areas in which you need work. We can do that in any way. Here are some different ideas for you. Do you have an idea of your own? So this year, for example, and I have started several times a post about the curriculum we're using this year. We're extremely eclectic this year. So it's been hard for me to like kind of sift through it and condense it down into a post. I might just have to do a couple different posts about different subjects. But one of the things I did with him was I said, okay, I subscribed to schoolhouseteachers.com, and I can drop an affiliate link in there for you at some point. It was like $10 a month. I got it on a special. They run specials all the time. And I figured if we didn't end up liking it, I could just, it was $10 a month. I wasn't going to be out very much money. And if we did like it, then I could download as much curriculum as I wanted, as many classes as I wanted for my different kids at different ages to do. And depending on your worldview, it's a Christian-based site. So you're going to have to look at the curriculum materials and decide how they fit in. Some are very heavily Christian influenced. Some are not. They're a little bit, you know, less. But just so you know that is the worldview that the site is presented from. And I know I have people from all different worldviews on the Facebook page here. But it's been good because he's found some really interesting classes. I said, you need a literature class. So he chose classic mythology, and I forget what exactly it's called, but it's like its effects or continued influences on modern day media. And so he's learning about all the backstories to all the different gods and goddesses in Greek and Roman mythology. And is it Greek and Roman, or maybe, no, I think it is Greek and Roman. And then in the second semester of the year, he'll be using that information to watch with a critical eye some of the different movies and things that are out and the book series that are out, and talk about how, you know, in media and literature, we're still seeing the effects of those subjects, and how some of those gods and goddesses have affected, you know, our mainstream, like corporations and things like Nike, and the Swish logo, and those different things all tie back to mythology. So I would say it's not a terrible idea to give her college textbooks if she's interested in them. But what's an even better idea is finding out what she is interested in, the little bits, and like extrapolating from there, building content and classes around it. And I can give you more resources for that. Or you know what, I'll work on that post too. Okay, so Christy says she read my recent article on self-directed, so that might be the one that we were talking about, right? What happens if he doesn't do the work? Yes. Okay, so Christy says, what happens when your teen doesn't do the work? And so this actually piggybacks really well off of Gina's question and what we were talking about. Christy, that is hard, right? That is really hard. That's where we all have to figure out what makes our kids tick. So for my son, Right now, what motivates him is his computer access. And so that's what we're doing. Like, you have XYZ to get through during the year. And if it's not done, or during the week, and if it's not done, you've chosen to forfeit your computer usage for the next week. And you've also doubled your work because you're still responsible for that work and you're going to get it done. And right now, he knows we mean business and he's a little nervous about testing it. There's going to come a time, probably sooner rather than later, when he's just going to slough off and he's not going to do anything for that week, and he's going to tell us he did, and then I'm going to find, when I go through his material on Sunday, that nothing was done, and he's going to lose his computer for the week, or his computer access for the week. And it's going to be an ugly week. It's going to be a really ugly week for me. It's probably going to be an ugly week for his siblings because he's not the most moderated in his reactions. How's that for a polite way to say it? And so he will pick and poke at everybody for that week to make us all miserable. He will probably lose weeks worth of his access to his free computer time because he'll push and push and push to make sure that we really mean it and that we'll stick with it. Once he has done that, he'll be good for months. But he usually a couple times a year has to go through putting everybody through the paces for a week or two to make sure that, we really mean business. Otherwise, he won't get anything done. He is in a really lazy, manipulative phase of his life right now. And he wants to see how much he can get away with and not get caught not doing before he'll actually do the work. It is a phase, after talking to many parents of bright teens, that a lot of them go through. Not every one of them. There are some very motivated teens out there, and a few that I know personally that I have to try not to use as examples for my son, because then he'll feel like I'm comparing, because he's a great kid, but he is also a kid that will push the envelope to make sure you really mean business, or that, that there is follow through. So that is a huge challenge. I don't have a great answer for you, except that it's going to look different for everybody, and it's going to look different even for you month to month. I would say first and foremost, figure out what is going to be her currency. What is going to be the thing that she wants to lose the least or wants to do the most, and use it as a carrot for a while, because sometimes having those carrots dangling out in front of them gets them to where they need to be, so that becomes a habit, and then they can move forward from there. So yeah. Courtney says when she's at home, her son announces almost everything he's doing before he does it. I'm going to go to the bathroom now. I'm going to turn the lights off. And I think that it is, and she wants to know if it's a gifted thing, a twice exceptional thing, any ideas. I think it's just a kid thing. Some kids do that, some kids don't. I've got one who tells me every single thing that he is doing. Every single thing that he is doing. And he is one of my older ones, which really narrows it down for you. And I have to let him know, that is great, thanks. You don't have to tell me every time you're doing something. It's just, I think it's just one of those quirky things that the less attention you pay to it, the more quickly it will kind of dissolve. It's just a kid thing, I think. I don't know, compliant. Yeah, Gina says compliant. What's that? Yeah, I don't know either. I'm trying. Wouldn't that be nice if we could get just nice, compliant, super smart kids? Okay. Oh, I love this. Caitlin, I'm going to read this. So Caitlin said what I was trying to say earlier, but even better than I could. She said, our kiddos are going to be the voice and the leaders. Their opinions will turn to such positive action as long as we don't squash it. I think it is so important to remember that. We need to nurture those leadership qualities and those abilities, but we need to make sure that we do it in a way that we are building them up and giving them the tools for success without squashing those desires and those innate abilities. It's really hard to do, isn't it? Sometimes, I mean, as parents, especially parents of more than one, especially parents whose kids also have therapies they have to get to and things that they have to do, and so many things you're trying to put into the day. Like, sometimes you just want to say, stop talking to me. Just stop talking to me, please. I have heard conversation and instructions and information for hours and hours and hours, and they just need a break. They just need quiet. And for some of our kids, like that can be pretty damaging. And we need to both give them grace, and we need to give ourselves grace too, because sometimes it is important to be honest with them and say, you know how sometimes you feel a little overstimulated and you need to shut down, or you need to just plug into your Kindle, or you need to turn on Minecraft or pbskids.org or something like that, and you need to just check out? I do too. I'm homeschooling you. I'm, running you to all sorts of different after school activities if your kids are traditionally schooled. I am running a business. I'm going to work during the day. I am trying to keep up with the house. I'm trying to make sure everybody's got healthy meals to eat, trying to get everybody to their therapies. I just need a little bit of time to myself. It's really okay to say that. And it is okay sometimes to say it in an abrasive way, to be polite. I mean, there are nights when I've had enough, and my son, he turns on at night. He's a night owl, and I'm a night owl. So, apples don't fall far from trees. I say that all the time, and he's really my kid. He's really wired similarly to me, and he is going, and his mind is sharp. That's when I do my best work. Anything you see come out for the site, for our Facebook group, Raising Poppies, for these Facebook Lives, for any resources that you see, any books I've written. There's one back there. Whoops, wrong side. It all comes at night. I write better. I do better. I think better at night. I just click better at night. And he's like me. So he wants to have these great conversations. But I've been on and on and on and on and on all day with 4 kids. And so and sometimes adults, because I've got, outside activities with them. And I am just ready for some quiet, some introversion time, some recharging time. And I want to write or read. Or sometimes I just want to watch Netflix. My shirt says, I don't know if you can see it, this is my Netflix shirt. And that's kind of today's a little bit of Netflix schooling. Netflix and Minecraft schooling. Hey, if you, speaking of Minecraft schooling, 2 of my kids are upstairs working on something. I don't know if you have ever been on my site. If you haven't, why haven't you been? RaisingLifelongLearners.com. But no, every month I publish a free Minecraft challenge calendar for kids. It's just a calendar. You enter your email address, it'll get sent right to your email. And it's got, it's a calendar, it's a perpetual calendar, so you can use it year after year, but it's got a challenge each day, like build a jack-o'-lantern. I don't know. There's some easy ones, and then there's some harder ones. So my kids are upstairs building challenges in Minecraft right now based on the Minecraft challenge calendar that I publish on the site. So anyway, okay. I am very rambly today. Hopefully you guys are still okay with us. All right, Jen. Oh no, you missed me by 2 weeks. That would have been so fun. It was hot there. Oh, hopefully it's a little cooler for you. It was 98 degrees. And this Ohioan in October, I'm ready for 75 degrees or 70 degrees and just like nice breezes. It's so pleasant here. Actually, it's a little rainy today, but it's so pleasant. Okay, so Samantha. Yeah, actually, Samantha asked, she was going to read the post about interest-led curriculum for middle schoolers and wanted to know if it was good for little kids too. And absolutely it is. Hi, Bethany. There's stuff you can extrapolate for your kid, pull it out and apply it down. You can apply it up. So anyway, okay. So I am like way behind on these comments here. This is fun. This is a fun talk. I hope that you guys are getting something out of it. It's not like, oh, she's just rambling. How early, what age did that start? Oh, yeah. So your 7-year-old's testing already. I had to think back to what I was saying when you wrote that, Anne-Marie. No, my 14-year-old, he'll be 15 next month. He came out of the womb testing me. So let's just say that. Some of these kids, it's like, inbred wiring. It's just who they are. And it is definitely who he is. It is also who my 8-year-old is. She is a tester too. My 10-year-old, I say all the time, she's who keeps me sane because she's never had that testing gene. She does test a little bit, as all kids do, but she is more about, she's the one that every teacher would love to have in their class. Super smart, super bright, super achieving. eager to please. Yeah, she's the teacher pleaser. So it's been interesting. Yeah, definitely kind of came out of the womb exactly like that. So 7 is just fine. Probably Samantha, my teen sounds like your 6-year-old because my teen was like that at 6 and just hasn't grown out of it. Okay, so Jen asks, she has a loud child and she's always asking him to talk quietly, but feels like it's kind of squashing his personality and who he's created to be. That's a hard one. So I've got 2 kids who have 2 volumes. You can't hear them or understand what they're saying because they're kind of murmuring and muttering, or they're yelling. And it's a really big cup of coffee. I need all the help I can get today. And it is hard to work that balance. So, that old preschool saying, inside voices. Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it is something that, you do need to help them. Sometimes that's a sensory thing. In my 8-year-old, it is a sensory thing. She doesn't have a good idea of exactly how loud she's being. So we have to kind of tell her and help her bring it down. I think it's all in how you say it. Hey, honey, it's just you and I here. I can hear you just fine. Let's talk in a little bit, quieter voice. I don't think that's going to be something that's detrimental to his personality. I think it's something that's going to be one of those tools you're providing him so that he can be successful as he continues to grow. Because there are some societal constraints in which we need to live, right? It's not appropriate to be sitting in a library yelling or a store talking at the top of your lungs. Every one of us has looked at somebody before on a cell phone in a restaurant or in the checkout line at Target and thought to ourselves, like, couldn't they talk a little bit quieter? I don't need to hear their entire conversation. So it is important for us to help our kids understand, modulation in their voices and appropriate, volume control. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that it's where, that's when tone comes in, right? I'm sorry, I got distracted again. So I think my husband just pulled in home early, but I'm not sure because there's a shadow in our driveway. I'm in the basement, so we've got those glass block windows, and so there's now a dark shadow. Yep, I see feet walking in. So he's coming in. So you might hear my husband for a second. I don't think that that's going to squash personality. I think it's about how you approach it, and if you approach it as a tool for learning, I think it's just going to benefit him in the long run. Yeah, Bethany, we use it in creative mode. My kids do use survival mode a lot, but I prefer creative mode because then it's more like a building block game, and it's using their creativity without them destroying each other's property. We have a very strict rule. So they get on together on the, they hook in. They're not in any servers right now. They don't go on to any shared servers, any friend servers, anything. So they play against each other or with each other on what they call the family server, but it's really just them tapping into somebody's world on Wi-Fi. And they do go into survival mode for that often, but we have a pretty strict rule because we had some problems in the past a couple years ago where they would destroy each other's stuff and it was causing some big sibling issues. They're not allowed to destroy each other's things. They're only allowed to help each other build up things and protect their things. So as soon as somebody is destroying somebody else's property, then they are not allowed on survival mode anymore. They have to go into creative mode because anything that in our house, anything that breaks down the family structure needs to be reevaluated and needs to go. And that's just currently our rule. We have the same rule for playing outside with friends and neighbors. If you aren't being kind to your siblings, then that's something you need to work on before you have the opportunity to be kind to the others in our neighborhood. So if they're out there picking on their siblings with the neighborhood kids, then they have to, they aren't playing with the neighborhood kids for a while until they can consistently be nice to each other. So we have the same rule for playing outside as we do for Minecraft. They can go into survival mode as long as they're building each other up and helping each other. And that's just because, like, if they're going to play in survival mode against other kids, sometimes, when their friends come over and they're each working to destroy each other's stuff, that's fine. I don't, if that's how they're choosing to play. But they can't do anything in a way that is going to damage each other's relationships. So Bethany just popped in with, let's see, how do you explain to other adults that are in charge of your poppies that they're so smart without sounding like you're bragging? How do you get them to accommodate their quirks? Okay, that again is a toughie. First of all, I don't really care if other people think I'm bragging, but it has taken me a long time to get there. I also try to phrase things in ways that others are going to understand. I just talked this weekend about this. I'm going to give you an example. My son went to a church camp for a week not this past summer, but a summer ago, so last summer, and where he was going to have problems. I knew it was going to be with impulsiveness. I knew that it was going to be, in the small groups where they had to focus for long periods of time. All the athletic things, all the running around things, he was going to be just doing fine with. But it was those sit down and focus, or things like coloring, although he's not doing that at 13 when he went to this camp. And so we said he had ADHD because it is a lot easier for other people to understand ADHD and the impulsivity and the difficulties that come along with that than if you tell them they are gifted or profoundly gifted and have overexcitabilities or quirks that go along with that. So I try to phrase things in ways that the general population is going to understand. They're typically going to be much more accommodating if I say that, my son has ADHD, or explain that my daughter has sensory processing disorder. And so she struggles sometimes to filter out some of the outside sensations that are coming in and gets overwhelmed easily. It might need to take a walk if she's getting overwhelmed. So it might be better to approach it from that, that angle. My son's very impulsive and struggles with his attention if he's forced to sit still and do something like coloring for long periods of time. So at home, we take lots of breaks. We get up and walk around. I ask him to color half of the paper or a quarter of the paper. And if he's done with that and he can't do something else, or he doesn't want to color anymore, then we'll either read a book together or he'll do something quiet. And you can ask, can he bring a fidget with him? My son used to bring a Rubik's Cube with him to youth group and or to Sunday school or whatever our religious ed classes. And if he was done before others, or if it was an activity that was going to make him become impulsive or belligerent, he had a signal worked out with the teacher, and he would go outside in the hallway and he would work on his Rubik's Cube. Yeah, so Mark, I've had some of the same experiences. He said, depending on the receiver, I've taken the time to explain overexcitabilities, and they get empathy, and you get empathy and questions about what it looks like. And I would say the exact same thing. It's totally going to depend on the source and how often that person's going to be with your kid. So for like example, the summer camp, he was only going to be there for 5 days, and they weren't going to see him again after that. It was much easier to say, this is ADHD, he's impulsive, he needs frequent breaks. For his religious ed classes, we talked about, him being gifted, him being impulsive, and she actually asked more questions. And so we talked about overexcitabilities. And so it totally, you're right, depends on who it is, how long they're going to be spending with them, and what kind of relationship that's going to bring, because it could benefit that person in the long run. Your son is not necessarily going to be the last person that educator is going to encounter. And so you might be able to explain it a little bit better. But if it's a parent who is volunteering to take over that Sunday school class for, an hour a week, and he's going to be moving on in a few months or a year to somebody else, it might not be worth it if it's somebody who's not going to really get it. I think that's a really great point, Mark. Thanks for bringing that up. So, all right, I've talked to you guys for 45 minutes. Any other questions or things you want me to chat about? Yeah, this was fun. Sorry it wasn't super duper formal, but I'm glad that helped, Bethany. Let me see if I missed anything. Okay, so you see in there, you can find out where to get the talks from this weekend, or you can wait until they're on my site with the slides and any handouts. And then, yeah, so Oh, Megan, you saw me this weekend. Thank you. I'm glad that you liked my talks. I'm glad that they were helpful. That's what I hope to be. So yeah, I appreciate you coming out and spending your time because there were a lot of great talks to choose from. So it's really great that you took the time to watch mine. I appreciate that. I mentioned last week that I am coming out with something you guys have asked me about for a while, helping you figure out what to do with your kids now that you're homeschooling them. If you're suddenly unexpectedly homeschooling, if you've always wanted to homeschool your gifted kid but just don't know what to do with them now that you've got them home, or just need a little bit of help to build some structure into your homeschool, I'm working on something called a crash course for homeschooling that kiddo, and it should be out pretty soon. If you are on my email list, watch for an email today or tomorrow asking you a question. This resource is not mine, it is yours. It needs to be the best possible resource for you because you've asked for it, and I want you to help with it. So I want to make sure that you're doing you're doing as much as I am to get this right. So I'm going to send out an email, just a question, asking you what you don't want me to forget to put in there. As I'm fine tuning it and finishing it up and making it perfect for you, I want to know feedback. I want to know what it is that you want most to know about homeschooling your kid. What is going to help you be the best homeschooler possible and do everything you need to do for your kiddo. So you can sign up for my email list and get that like in the next day or so when I send it out. The email sign up is in the comments, or you can even shoot me an email if you want, or send me a private message. When thinking about what you need to know most about homeschooling your gifted kid, what is that? What is it that I can do to support you best in homeschooling your kiddo? And so the answers to that question, that's really what's going to help shape this and make this the best possible resource for you. So thank you, Melissa. Yay. Let me know how they like the Minecraft Challenge calendar, and snap a picture or tag me, and maybe we'll share it on the page so everybody else can see what great things are happening. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming out and for spending 47 minutes with me. Leave more questions in the comments. Share this out so other people can find it. And I will see you live next week. But I will be popping around the page and in your inbox and in our Facebook group, Raising Poppies, all week. So I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.